Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. So for this video, I actually managed to record using OBS instead of relying on Clip Studio's built-in recording, just because it's too much like Procreate, like you see in the first 30 seconds of this video as I'm doing the initial line art. I figure it's better to show off more of when I'm actually zooming in and out. That's one thing that always bugged me. I don't know about everybody else, but it always kind of looks weird if you're spending a lot of time in one small area. And when that is being recorded by Clip Studio or Procreate, it just looks like you're doing nothing, or like the video is like paused for 5 minutes or something like that. I know they don't even last 5 minutes, but it feels like forever when you're when you're looking at it. Also, apologies on any crappy edits for this one. I tried my best to put a lot of effort in the small time I had, because I got a little sidetracked with a very simple cosplay but really bad patterns, so I'm just glad I have good past sewing experience to fix that. So I had randomly come up with this character on the bus ride back home after an art meetup, and I really kind of wanted a little bit of a villainy, sort of scary character. Well, I'm not great at drawing any horror or anything like that, so it's not entirely scary, but it's, I suppose, gearing more towards that, of being an evil character versus a nice one. Most of my female characters always tend to look more poppy or happy or floral or whatever, and so I guess I wanted to change it up. I suppose the floral theme is still there though. So this is not the first time I've ever tried using OBS and screen recording and everything like that. I've done like a couple of tutorials and stuff like that for friends or like work stuff of showing off how to do something. It's a super useful tool. But when it comes to like digital painting, I always kind of get stressed out about it, and so I did a few like practice rounds, you could almost say, of like trying to figure out when I was doing some 3D stuff. So I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with it. It's really weird because I record myself painting traditionally a lot now, and I don't feel it. Like, I never even felt it even the first time I turned on the camera. It was fine. I'm feeling like it could be because I'm not as familiar with Clip Studio, or when I was recording, trying to do stuff in a Blender. I'm not that familiar with Blender, even if I've used it for 4 or 5 years now or something like that. It still takes a lot of practice, and also there's a lot of settings, right? So anytime I was thinking of like, oh, where's this thing? For some reason, I'm like, I don't even know. Like, so I did discover you can pause in OBS. So often I would pause or completely just stop the video and then just start it over or something when I did figure it out. Sometimes I'd even redo the thing or something if I'd already kind of figured it out, if it wasn't something complicated to redo, just to capture what I'm doing. So it wasn't too much of, oh, all of a sudden some entire parts are done. My biggest thing for this was just making sure the final line art was very clean, making sure the face shape was cleaner. I think I even resized this because I realized originally I didn't really make it very big in Procreate, but it was 8.5 by 11, but because I really wanted to be able to draw a lot of detail on the face and not being so pixelated and having very zoomed in ones, I decided the final size was going to be 11 by 17. I think the line art aspect is probably the thing I liked least about it, because I was looking it over on the final thing, and there was something about it, because I really wanted to keep the line art, but yeah, with a painterly one, I should have gone with like maybe a soft round brush and not tried to use the same brush I tried to use when drawing in Procreate, just because the texture turns out completely different than when you're using it in Procreate, so it's definitely not the same brush at all. So I will definitely remember that for next time. I was really glad that I definitely nailed down how I was gonna light this painting, because I feel like a couple of my previous digital paintings just suffered from, for some reason, forgetting about where the lighting is coming from. Even though it's, especially for digital art, much easier to change your mind anyway later without the fear of completely ruining a painting when you can just either delete the layer or easily just paint over it on a new layer or whatever. Funny enough, near the end of nearly completing this piece is when I realized, oh, I actually got inspired by some of the Wuo enemies, or like one in particular, where I was like, shit, is that the identical dress? Am I just drawing the same character or something? I'll just like, do I have to rename this as just fan art? But when I revisited it and looked at that character, I was like, oh, wait, no, she's got like a giant spider lily on like the center of her dress where basically her chest is, and the dress kind of is completely different, and her hair is completely different. I'm like, oh, okay, it's just inspired. Okay, I suppose part of the bottom part of her dress is more like chrysanthemums, and the realize maybe I was getting a little bit more stressed out that I was just one for one copying something, is because I realized I had painted chrysanthemums in the past several times digitally, so it was just reminding myself of something I had already painted, but it was just flowers or something I was painting, which is what the dress is kind of inspired by, even though I was just going for spider lilies. But I kind of like the weird chrysanthemum-y, weird kind of textured floofiness, petaliness to the dress. Now for the background, I wanted to keep it very simple and just have the ocean and the sky with like the moon. But then for some reason I kind of added like maybe some background landscape a little bit, but I wasn't really feeling it. I wasn't really sure how I was going to light it, and I basically scrapped that for sure in the end. I don't even want to talk about like some of the messy processes of like trying to figure out how to get the, I guess almost like blood coming from her eyes type of deal, or maybe it's just the growth of plant growth or something. Kind of like how Hell's Paradise has like the weird creepiness of like the floral kind of thing, I guess. Maybe that also inspired me because I'm watching it. And so at first, choosing to do it first with the outlines just ended up making it look kind of like she got ketchup on all over her face. It looked really bad, so kind of happy with the more subtle choice I did, just because I guess I'm not used to like doing the weird, creepy, gross textures or something. Some people are really great at those, and they really make fantastic horror art, but me, I'm kind of like toned down, so, and very scared to commit to that kind of stuff, so it's kind of like borderline. I'm still trying to make it pretty, but evil. So, the moon. I feel like the last time I painted the moon was traditionally, and I actually liked how that turned out. But when I was doing it digitally, I didn't feel like just using the basic soft brush was gonna do it. I feel like you want to use a little bit more texture. And by nature, I feel like when you're using traditional paint, you can kind of get that little bit of a texture just from like cold pressed paper itself and get that roughness. And so I was really trying to find the right brush, as I haven't used Clip Studio as much, so I haven't really gotten used to like any quick and simple like textures I could think of on the fly that you sometimes, you'd kind of use for different stuff outside of maybe like painting a character or whatever. And because I didn't have that comfort with all the brushes, it was kind of stressful, and I think maybe I ended up using one of the imported brushes that I had found or something. And yeah, I feel like you could probably get away with doing very multiple ones because it's not anything of a super unique texture. But yeah, it would kind of drove me crazy, and I did multiple iterations, but I didn't record every single one of them just because at one point after doing it one time, I felt like I was trying it so many times and I didn't even hit record, and I was like, whatever, I'm gonna see what works, and hopefully I'll record the right one or something, or at least a couple, just to show off. So if there's like weird textures that popping in at some points, that's kind of why. By the way, just in case this happens to anybody else, and I don't know if it's very evident, but at one point I totally accidentally delete a layer at some point while I'm working on the weapon, and because I'm so focused on working on the weapon, I didn't realize it. And because my XP pen does this weird thing where I have to just on occasion just save and close and then reopen Clip Studio on it, I only realized that once I reopened it that the layer was gone, and I was kind of freaking out, having kind of a meltdown there for half an hour. But then I managed to, Google if there was recovery files, and there are. It's the the folder name is called Celsius, and I recommend you look in Windows Explorer on any drives. If you have multiple drives, just search them all, because I had a really tough time finding it, and it was on a completely different drive than what Clip Studio is installed on for my computer for some random reason. I don't know if I'm just very unique to that situation, but it's just a heads up that it was a pain to find. So if there's one thing I really am so far not digging about Clip Studio Paint, it's the custom brush making. Like, if you want your own personal custom scatter brush, I feel like it feels very unintuitive to make it if you're coming off of Photoshop and Procreate. And I was baffled by it, staring at it for a while, and I know I was on call with friends, but still, none of it seemed to really speak to me how I easily just make a scatter brush and make everything easily just like rotate at random every time I'm just like making a stroke, and also how to apply pen pressure to that, because I know I saw the pen pressure options, it kind of wasn't working. And before anybody says anything, yes, I actually went to tutorials. I only managed to watch one or two because at the time of doing this, I just had so little patience. And because I was just trying to poke around with it myself for half an hour for some reason, because I was determined to kind of figure it out on my own. I was like, surely it can't be that complicated. And then one of the first things one of the tutorials was like, it's like, oh, duplicate one of the brushes you already kind of like, what settings they have, and then work from there. And that already kind of like pissed me off. I'm like, is it because it's kind of complicated to create your own custom brush? I'm sure it isn't. There's some features that I have been like seeing that I kind of like more. The fact that you can import multiple instances of an image to get that kind of like extra amount of randomness is really nice. But in terms of like randomly rotating and like the full ability of scattering, just felt very complicated to me. I mean, at the time of making this artwork, and I just didn't feel like I wanted to put aside extra time to figure it out, which I definitely do want to do. By no means am I not going to do it, but I felt really frustrated in the moment in time of looking at it, and it kind of drove me a little crazy. It's stupid. I'll probably just like go over more tutorials and figure it out, and then it's gonna be one of those moments where like at least I hope it will be, of like, oh, that would have been so obvious or whatever, blah blah blah, because I think I kind of went in circles at some point and like probably just was too tired to be reading settings and what everything says. But yeah, not sure if anybody has a preference to custom brush makers and programs and what theirs might be. I actually think I like Photoshop the most, maybe because I'm most used to it. I had used it the longest and most comfortable with it. Not sure if it's actually unintuitive, to be honest, at this point, because I've used it for so long. Anyway, I totally pivot to working on the water because I realized I kind of wanted it to be like almost like her presence is kind of causing a ripple effect to the water, I realized, not like some faraway ocean kind of vibe so much as I had first painted the water. So it was just adjusting and fixing that. I take one more stab at creating all the flowy particles of flowers and stuff like that, but this time I'm mostly stuck with doing the existing scattered brushes of like the rose petal ones. And I think the feathers, just because when you look at spider lilies, they're more narrow petals and long ones. And so there's like a little bit of a combination of all of them. And I also drew in the paths of how I would do the strokes as well, just as like a little bit of a guide and to hopefully make it a little bit better. So yeah, I still think I'd probably redo it anyway, but yeah, for now I think it's pretty okay. And the artwork is finally complete. I'm fairly happy with the way the character turned out and overall everything, aside from the flowers and stuff, as I've already ranted about. But other than that, I can't believe I managed to pull it off, especially making the face the way I wanted to and a lot of the details. So yeah, any critiques are always appreciated. I'm always trying to improve. But if you've gotten this far and enjoyed watching the video, I hope you can drop a like and subscribe to see more. Yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.